Alright, so here's another quick update of the QuikcShifter. Here's the unit, fully wired. We have the 4-pin connector with 2 connections for the coils and 1 for ground, 1 for power. We have 3 connectors on the other end. We have the throttle. We have the shift sensor, and we have the gear sensor. And this one here, the last one here, this is for this sensor we just built. This one has the connector for power, ground, and signal, and it's just voltage dividers for each of the gears. So it's coming at 12 volts on each of those lines, and I'm bringing it down to a range between 5 volts and 0 volts, different for each gear, so I can calculate what the current gear is. It has 2 connectors for splitting the line. The reason it has 2 connectors is because I didn't have the connectors for the gear positioning system, so I just ended up replacing that connector with 4 connectors. And here's the connection on the other end, so I'm splitting the line so I can tap into those connectors, or into those lines, into those signals, and I'm doing the conversion and getting it on this end. This is what I was showing you last week, or last video. These are the same boards, except that this ones have been etched, and they have southern mask on top, so they look pretty because they're red. And this is the 4 one, so I only did one because I only need one. And here's the sensor. This is the same sensor I did a while ago on one of the first videos. Connector, same as the other ones. It has power, ground, and signal. That is gonna connect to the unit here in one of the connectors. And so right now I'm gonna test the unit, or I'm gonna test this with the unit, and then I'm gonna plug it into the motorcycle and test, make sure that I can read the throttle, I can read the gears, and I can also read this sensor while it's connected to the motorcycle. So let me power up. And this is not a connection to the motorcycle yet. This is just my power supply, and I'm gonna connect my gear sensor. Let me get my phone right here so you guys can see it. And I put this right here. So, oops. So we have, when we connect it to the motorcycle, you are going to see the gear change on this little box here. We're not gonna turn on the bike because I don't have the code to manage it yet. So this is the RPM is not gonna be visible, but we will see the shift sensor here, the throttle here, and the messages and the gear. The messages will be scrolling by really quickly, but you can see an example of the previous test I did. Oops. So that's the data coming across of what I'm getting, and then obviously the components are reading it and making sense of it on their own. So let me power up, and you should see lights. You will see messages coming through. This is the sensor. So if I so here's my sensor. If I press on it, I'm blocking the whole thing. So you can see this one here at the bottom. When I press on it, you see it goes down. When I pull on it, he goes up and down. All right. So let me power off, and let me show you the code really quickly before we connect it to the motorcycle. So the only difference from the previous video is that I added these lines to enable the ADC. This is the analog to digital conversion, and I have one semi-big function here. This is the interrupt to handle the readings. So I have one for reading the GPS, gear positioning sensor, right here, one for the shift sensor, and one for the throttle. And on each one, if you look at this line here, I'm throwing away the first reading because it's coming from a different sensor, so I don't want data to be crosstalk between the lines. So I'm dropping the first one, and only keeping the second one, and then I continue on to the next sensor. So we are reading the GPS on ADC0, the shift sensor on ADC1, and the throttle on ADC3. And the well, obviously I have three global variables for keeping those readings: one for the gear voltage, one for the throttle voltage, and the shift sensor voltage. I also added a function to tell me what the gear is based on the voltage I'm reading from the gear itself. So if it's below 200 points, then I can safely assume that it's in neutral. If it's below 338, then it's first gear, 525 is second gear, and so on all the way to sixth gear. So the catch-all is sixth gear, because if it's anything below, I'll catch everything else, and if it's above that, then it has to be sixth gear, or the sensor is broken. One of those two. And here at the bottom, I added these 4 lines. This is the code from the last video, but on this one I added these 4 lines that is just constantly sending data to my phone with these commands. One says GPS volume, or voltage, sorry, and then the gear and the actual gear number, the throttle and the value of the voltage, the shift and the value of the voltage of that shift sensor as well. So oh, and also I changed this a little bit, where in the previous video, the original design, I had all of this. Actually, let me show you the running version of it. Hold on. Powering up. So this here, uh, in this row, we used to have 70k resistors. I changed them to 100k to split the voltage 50%. So 100k, 100k. If I have 12 volts, then it'll split it and make it 6 volts. The reason I did that is because the motorcycle, when it's not on and the key is open, the voltage is just slightly below 12 volts. So the voltage is low enough to turn all of this on, and it makes it impossible to read the right gears unless the motorcycle is running. So by upping the bottom resistors, I am able to detect that it is running or not running, so it doesn't really matter. So it went from 70k to 100k. So now let me get my motorcycle here. Right there. So that's my motorcycle. Let's see if I can zoom in this way. So this is where the gear sensor is. You can see that I removed the original connector and I put 2. Here's the other end. Here I have one connector coming from my throttle. I have, this is the old shift sensor. We're gonna throw this away. I have the connector that has the coils, 2 wires for the coils, and 1 power, 1 ground. Power is coming from one of the coils directly, and that's it. So let me connect. Let me zoom out. So I'm gonna connect this, the new sensor, to detect the gears first. So let me connect it on the right ones. All right, there. And I'm gonna connect this one to, well, this is the last connector. So I'm splitting it between 2 4-pin connectors. It used to be an 8-pin connector. And now we should have access to the gears themselves. So let me move this over, and disconnect it from my power supply. We are going to plug it into the motorcycle, and now we are going to plug it into the our GPS connector and our throttle, and we already have the shift sensor. So let me put my phone right here, or maybe right here, so you can see, you will see the gear there, and then you should see the sensor if I pull or push on it, and this is gonna be the throttle, and then these are just gonna be messages flying by. So let's see. Hopefully the connectors are not loose. These are cheap connectors. This is just for testing. So let me open the key. There's the motorcycle. You can see that the motorcycle is in neutral. Let me put in first gear. There we go. So that's first gear, and second gear, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. And if I go down again, I have to spin the wheel so it engages correctly. Back to put in neutral. There it goes. Let me open the throttle. You can see it moves up and down, right? That's the bar in the middle. And then we have our gear indicator. So if I press on it, you can see the bar on this side. If I pull on it, it goes up. If I press on it, it goes down. So we are pretty much ready to go. So next is adding code to manage the coils, and then we can turn on the motorcycle and do a real test run on it, including shifting with the unit connected and talking to the phone while the motorcycle is on. So that's all I have. Enjoy.